Alright everybody, as I said in previous video, and I will compare these three and I will destroy your beautiful yet empty, soulless xenopussy Zuma Romulus bitch. And I don't wanna discuss why Prometheus-Covenant contains all this religious creation poetry and why Romulus does not, because it's pretty obvious. In one case, Ridley Scott desired to create a story about philosophy in space, and in another case, Federico Alvarez desired to create small action horror and didn't want to add any philosophical weight to it, so instead I want to compare these movies on a pretty specific topic: characters. My main idea, despite being made in this action horror survival genre, Romulus would only win if its character were not so extremely empty. In this video I will compare main characters from Prometheus-Covenant Romulus. I will suggest how Rain could be a better character and why all her character fundamentals very poor, and then I will compare secondary characters and will discuss their problems. So let's start with main characters in these movies. Rain from Romulus versus Elizabeth Shaw from Prometheus versus Daniels from Covenant. Romulus' main character is Rain. I feel that movie voluntarily, actively decided to make her faceless placeholder. Even though movie gives these little moments for her personal development, it is quickly done in first 5 minutes, you know, just to tick the boxes. Like, okay, we should give her some purpose, like dream about sun and Ivaga, cause this planet is bad. Mention her parents are dead and droid is connected with her father, good, and show one picture and one smile, like she is connected to these guys. And after this poor exposition, we never deliver anything for her personal development. Only that she wanted to leave Andy behind, and she is worried when Andy's personality is replaced. Just tell me, how am I supposed to feel anything to this character, even though I always try to feel character in the movie, because it's more interesting way to watch movies, of course. But with Rain, it's just impossible. And in fact, the only character in Romulus I feel some sympathy and compassion towards is the secondary character girl. So right now let's recall Elizabeth Shaw from Prometheus. Elizabeth has two levels. First, deep conceptual level. She is something like ontological opposition to David. If David is soulless, devil-like figure, Elizabeth is like holy saint, martyr, human figure. So how creators showed us this conceptual Elizabeth level? We see her deep existential inspiration to find creators. We see flashback dream explaining roots of her faith and early death discovering. So we can actually understand this is deep fundamentals of her personality, it's not random. We see how desperate she is to find answers. And we see that after all of this she still didn't lose hope and she forgave David. And then in Covenant we see this tragically ironic evolution of Elizabeth. Being holy and truly human figure, she is the one to be sacrificed by David's soulless devil figure and give birth to his evil creations. But also she became source of this poetic inspiration for David, and I think she was the reason to truly evoke and channel his newborn freedom. So this conceptual level of Elizabeth sounds for me deeper than, I don't know, 99.99% of characters ever created, don't you think? And second, like usual character emotional level, we can actually emphasize with her. We can see her in some human interactions, she has very human existential purpose, she is in love, she loses her beloved one, we can see she is betrayed by David, she suffers giving birth to xenomorph, being absolutely fragile, alone and vulnerable in this. We can see she actually has hope in Yannick and they are united in this self-sacrificial mission. Being wounded and exhausted, she survives ship, survives engineer. I don't know about you guys, usually I am barely able to feel anything, but after all of this, Elizabeth actually has my sympathies and compassion and I'm able to feel anything towards her. In Covenant we have Daniels, who is actually less interesting than Shaw. Daniels doesn't have this deep conceptual level But still, she wakes up in this tense, vulnerable, dangerous situation. Her husband is burned alive and she's absolutely helpless. Then we see her grieving, watching videos with her husband and being human. Then we see this moment with Walter when she's still broken and shares her dream about a cabin on the lake. Then we see this very human moment with crew supporting her despite Captain Order. Then this incredibly human moment with T, when these two broken people without words can support each other and share pain. So you already can't help but you feel some sympathy to her. I don't like Daniels, I don't like this character, but I can feel something to her. And then after all her fights, all her suffering, when she actually deserved some peace, we absolutely destroying her with this David twist. In the most vulnerable, helpless situation imaginable, recalling her bright, pure dream about cabin on the lake that will never come true. Just try to imagine this moment of absolute horror for her. So as you can see, Prometheus and Covenant actually do a lot of job to create these bonds with character for us. Even if I'm not extremely emotional towards these characters, I don't really love them, you know? I can feel something towards him. I can see them as characters, not as pure function to move the plot further. But Rain is absolutely empty function placeholder. So right now, let's not fantasize, let's not reimagine whole movie, whole character. Let's take what we already know about Rain and try to push it further, develop it. We learn that Rain's parents died. And I guess as we are in action horror genre, we can't really spend time introducing useless parents. But we know that Andy is her only family and he was fixed by her father and he inherited her father's jokes. So maybe to deepen connection with Andy, we could see maybe flashback of Rain, Andy and dying father who orders Andy to take care of Rain, actually giving this instruction to do what's best for Rain. Or maybe we could see young vulnerable Rain supported and protected by Andy. You know, to somehow deepen their connection, to make this Andy transformation more traumatic for us. Then, very important, we see that Rain unfairly sentenced for another 6 years on this industrial planet. And we kinda understand it is bad, and we kinda understand it is hopeless, and we kinda heard that people dying from diseases, and we see this planet is dirty. And I'm using this word kinda because we were only telling that this planet is bad. We never saw it. Maybe we could visually see how people die during this mines incident, or how Rain works in these mines absolutely exhausted, or how people just dying on the streets or in mines and nobody cares, or how people suffers from these diseases in dirty cold hospital, or how corporate soldiers publicly punish and execute protesters. You know, it is Rain's dream to leave this planet. It is her character only key motivation. We don't know anything about Rain except she wants to leave this planet to Ivaga. But to be honest, I can't see the reason to leave this planet. I can understand it is bad, but I can't feel it. For me, Rain motivation feels like, whatever, girls want to change town. Because they didn't show me anything, so I could feel in different way. So that's why main Rain motivation doesn't work for me at all. We already have this storyline that these two were in romantic relationships of some sort. And God knows, last thing I ever want to see in the movie is love story of these two. But we already have this storyline in the movie. Why not to try to use it and evoke some emotions? Maybe these two actually could find a moment to talk. Maybe we could get a hint that they could start again. And Rain is pretty lonely character, and maybe it could create some hope for her that she will have new warm life on Ivaga with him. And then, after building these emotions, we could take this hope from her. Because right now, this fact that they were in a romantic relationship doesn't add anything to the story, just anything. So we're losing another potential character level of Rain, and this character has absolutely zero sense in this movie, absolutely zero. Next point, we have this storyline that Rain was connected to this group of guys, and we even see one blurry photo and one hugs and how are you. Again, God knows, last thing I want to watch is relationships of these no-name teenagers. But maybe, just maybe, instead of producing all these degenerate, no-brain, useless BS that accomplishes absolutely nothing in this story, writers could create some real emotional bonds between them so I can feel anything, because right now all this group feels extremely cold for me and for Rain. Why should I or Rain even care if they die? And the only arc in Rain character's story is Andy. And yeah, we have kinda nice emotional arc between them. And yes, we see this transformation and Andy became bad and he didn't open a door and it's traumatic for Rain, but I can't really feel it. It is too weak. Maybe I would feel this moment if Xenomorph actually horribly murdered this girl, but he just nicely took her away. Maybe we could see like really traumatic and soulless Andy transformation. Like for example, this dude could try to destroy this synthetic and Andy could just murder him without hesitation. So cold and machine he became. Because right now I can't feel that Andy is bad. And you know, we even kill Andy in the end, but it was so invisible and whatever that I promise you, I didn't remember this fact after watching movie 2 times. So to not lose this actually potentially very emotional moment, let's kill Andy. Throughout the movie we have this theme like make good for Rain, so let's actually sacrifice him. Or okay, let's save his model, but make his death really noticeable and emotional, because right now it's just disaster and absolutely lost potential. So final option to evoke some emotions towards Rain, very simple one. Why after all this she is still undamaged? Let's rip off her hand, or she flies through acid. Let's burn her body a little bit. So maybe I could feel something towards her just because of physical pain and pity. So guys, as you can see after this discussion, Shaw and Daniels now feels like just titans and like legends of character developments compared to Rain. And you know, you can tell me, like, you know, we can't afford character development because we are making survival action horror. And if we lose time on character development, we can lose pace or tension, suspense, whatever. But I've made very simple equation. Let me share it with you. So, if you put 5 weak minutes in character development, we will feel, for example, 0.5 emotions towards him. We multiplying these 0.5 to 100 minutes we see character on the screen, and in the end we are getting 50 emotional points. Like at the end of the movie, because of this character, we have 50 emotional points. But if you put 15 strong minutes in character development, we already might feel, for example, 0.8 emotions and 0.2 meaning towards this character. So we multiplying it to 90 minutes when we see character on the screen, and we getting 72 emotional points and 18 meaning points. Like, you know, character development is investment. Every valuable minute you put in character development, you will get multiplier of emotions towards every minute you see this character. So why not to do it? It is your main character and it is main source of emotions for entire movie. Okay, let's move to secondary characters. First one is Android. As I said before, Andy feels a little bit weak, like they didn't push this evil corporate brain replacement Andy far enough. But also some core problem of Andy, as for me, he is a robot.
Yeah, he is kinda emotional and adorable and as brother for Rain, but you are feeling, especially look at how easily and entirely his personality shifts just because of model replacement. He doesn't have free will. He's just machine. Like, why should I care about machine? David is completely different case. Even though in Prometheus David is a machine mostly, like we can't see any free will embodiment in him. But still we have a lot of very intriguing hints of his personality. It seems he has some emotional preferences to choose a character and mimic him. Even subtle moments like these close-ups, David doesn't have a soul and his reaction, this is what I choose to believe and David's reaction, it's already making us to feel like, is he android? Does he have emotions? Does he have free will? And also, throughout the movie we see very specific actions from David. Even if he just follows protocol or program, these actions are way too interesting and non-android. Also we see this dialogue showing that David actually wants to be free. So even in Prometheus David is very interesting and non-machine-ish, but in Covenant David is just on whole another level, especially in contrast with Walter. So it is interesting to look at David because he is not a machine, but Andy is. So even though Rain Andy is cool character arc, right now I can't really feel much. Like, okay, machine has sad face, okay, like girl loves her machine, okay, fair enough. Let's move on to secondary characters. You know, logically, I don't want to really blame this movie for having such useless empty secondary characters. Because alright, we really might not have time and need for secondary character personal development and they're just meat for xenomorphs. But I don't watch movies with my logic. So yes, I want to blame this movie for such poor secondary characters. Let's compare these empty characters with secondary characters from Prometheus-Covenant. Vickers. Pretty great secondary character. In intro, we visually establishing her strong personality, then acting like cold corporate asshole, then little funny alive sexy moment, then shocking for her moment of burning man alive, then little personal father tragedy revenge moment, and then escape and death when we believe she will survive. So pretty good, not overwhelming, but when I remember Prometheus, I can actually recall this subtle character like trail from Vickers, like this cold robotic woman. Great, why not? Why not to feel something? And let's compare it with this girl Navarro. She basically was needed in this story to catch facehugger with her face and show us this toy and scan herself. And like, okay, being interesting, eye-catchy Asian visual type. Even though she had some emotional potential being in a relationship with this guy. Maybe at least she could die in his hands, I don't know. Because right now we are absolutely forget that he decided to save her, risking everyone. Next batch of character. This captain, we see him struggling to be a leader, but he has support from his wife, some Christian poetry, then he's watching his wife burning alive, then he finds some peace with Daniels and support from her, and then he, who is religious and I've seen the devil person, is the one to give birth to demon made by the devil. So yes, again, pretty decent for secondary character, versus this guy. Well, he was needed in this story basically to scream when his sister is locked and run in this tunnel for sister and then die. But any other placeholder character could accomplish this. It doesn't help that he is her brother. To be honest, I forgot about this fact both time I watched movie. And as I said before, he had some potential being in a relationship with Rain, but it is lost and he's absolutely useless and we can't feel anything towards him, like zero emotions, zero. Next batch of characters. This dude just has to be asshole to Andy and I guess give some comedic relief. And he even has to fall like useless degenerate and die as useless degenerate. I don't really understand why you can treat a character like this. Why should a character have such useless role? But yes, we learn that his mother died from androids and that's why he's acting this way with Andy. Well, it doesn't work because you've made this character absolutely unpleasant person, and to be honest, and it is noticeable, we needed this information about dead mother only to establish this rule about androids who can sacrifice humans. So it is a good idea to have in our mind, because when we see these two acting for a mission, we can recall this idea. But it is not about character development, it's just about providing information. And I don't know, we can compare him with Yannick, who absolutely wins movie with his charisma and makes actually inspiring sacrificial act. Or we can compare him with these girls who also died stupidly, but how emotional it feels. If this dude feels like just degenerate and authors actively wanted to humiliate him and laugh on him and don't treat him like character, these girls really died in panic, in isolation, totally losing control, very brutal, and we actually surprised and horrified how hard it is to fight this little dude, and part of the crew running to save them, and then we see them burning alive. But this dude is just disgusting degenerate, because authors made him this way. And only this girl is actually cool and even more interesting than our protagonist Rain. She has couple little moments, but with pretty sweet acting. She's pregnant, that makes her more vulnerable. She suffers a lot and we have a lot of emotional moments with her. Then she injecting this dangerous stuff inside. Then she gives birth to this motherfucker. Then xeno milk is pouring out of her breast, and then this offspring actually eats her alive as she is his mother. That's actually evoked emotions in me, and I was afraid for her and I felt something towards her, but also because she's pretty sweet Latina babe. So you know, I refuse to think that this movie was made by idiots. I think this movie actively, voluntarily decided to treat itself like a popcorn movie and voluntarily refuses to have any real characters. But please just tell me, wouldn't movie only win from it? Like, are you really able to feel something to such useless empty characters? Like, are you even able to feel some coolness when they murdered by xenomorphs? Like, I don't know, for me to even feel how beautifully they were murdered, I need to see characters in front of me, not useless whatever. So previously I made a video about Romulus cinematography and art direction, and I truly respect movie for these aspects. But I promise you, I will forever hate this movie for such useless, empty characters. I'm not asking to even create some sense and meaning and metaphysics, just at least emotions, you know? Okay guys, that's it for Romulus, but I will make a couple videos about Prometheus and Covenant. Bye bye.